Welcome, friends, family, and other creatures of the sea, to the most professional StarCraft 2, with the world champion in the red, it's Clem. But charting a course for the Protoss in the blue, the captain, it's Harstem. A best-of-3 Terran versus Protoss showdown in the new proposed StarCraft 2 balance patch, with big changes not just to this matchup, but more importantly, the YouTube comment meta. So if you want to stay ahead of the curve, you gotta smash that like button. And maybe even subscribe. And Jimmy, what are we at? Jimmy! 1,461 likes on this video, on this cast. I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. Protoss, for the 5th time in about as many years, maybe a few more, will have to relearn the entirety of the early game. And by that I mean shield battery overcharge has been removed from the game and replaced with the energy recharge ability. With similar functionality, you drop 50 energy from the Nexus, and it turns into 100 energy on a shield battery or a sentry. Well, pretty much shield battery or any unit that has energy. So this has caused Protoss to pretty much rebuild and rethink the early game around using this ability, because you no longer have the somewhat reliable defense of shield battery overcharge, but you have a lot more utility, and Harstem already heading down that road as a sentry as the second unit build. Before, in the dark days of, well, pretty much still up to today because the patch isn't live yet, the way to scout in the early game for Protoss was to get in there with a probe and give them a mini heart attack, and then shade in with an adept and hope you cancel it in time before losing it as it shoves its face up against the wall. But now, with the energy recharge ability, you can reliably get enough energy on the sentry to send your hallucinated Phoenix directly across the map. Well, of course, a Reaper can still just run by as the snow globe doesn't do nearly enough damage. We're just going to pretend he didn't select. Citizen's Arrest takes out the Hellion. Nope. Nobody saw that. Well, it does make it a little harder to scout if you accidentally turn your hallucinated Phoenix around. But using that early scouting information to tailor a much more direct response to, say, an early Cyclone push is quite important. And the Cyclone now has been reverted back to the future. From a couple years ago, the new Cyclone requires a tech lab, costs 150, 100, quite squishy, 120 HP, which is actually less than the reactored version, but it does way more damage and moves, well, obviously, way quicker. And if it could run down Marines, it'd be even better, but unfortunately. So it just does a lot of damage, and it's almost impossible to catch unless you have a unit, well, like the Phoenix. And not a hallucinated one, some real Phoenixes on the way out of Harstem. Looking for an opportunity to shut down any of this early aggression. He got a good scout. He knows it was a 1-1-1 opener, a barracks, a factory, a starport to start. So it's very likely Clem is going to try some sort of early push, but backs off on seeing there's probably a bit too much for him to handle. And the key part here is if Clem loses a fight against the Phoenixes, if at any point he's forced to turn... Ah, yes. Classic hallucinated stalker scout, but... Huh. Interest. Well, we'll call it intentional. Not exactly sure what the hallucinated stalkers are supposed to accomplish, but we're exploring new ideas, right? Not always good. New ideas are not always good, but they are new. Or so the title claims, I assume. But... +1 on the way. Harstem going to be relying on a brute force approach, forcing his zealots to sprint into the Terrans as quickly as possible and try to overwhelm them. Meanwhile, Clem going for a much more classical triple threat style. We got 2 medevacs, stim, combat shield +1, the fixins. As he's still sitting on 2 bases. Harstem's already up to 60 probes and counting. He's working on gateways 5 through 8, and now adding on that robotics facility. Well, the Phoenixes, one of them gets picked off, straying a little bit too close to the Terran base. Clem slaps down a 3rd command center at 6.5 minutes. while Harstem is already comfortably mining from 3 bases. So Clem is quite committed to trying to get damage done with this first medevac push. And, well, if Harstem is reliably warping in off of all his gateways, he may have enough zealots to deal with it. But there are a lot of Widow Mines in this push, and that certainly could complicate things for the Dutch Protoss player. The Cyclone? What are you staring at? Hopefully the bug doesn't still exist. Oh, nope, it works perfectly fine. Half a dozen Widow Mines. 4 of them with the push here. There are some zealots, but +1 is just now about to complete. Does not want to let him up the ramp. Wait, who took down? Did he take down his own medevac? Either way, the Widow Mine is drawn into the fire. The Phoenixes will chase things down. The force fields will make sure one very unlucky Marauder dies. And Clem will pick up and drop behind the mineral walls here on El Dorado. There's actually no way for a ground army to get back here, except by being dropped there, teleporting, or by workers getting through some of the mineral walls. The map directly inspired by Golden Wall, hence the name, and it's in the description as well. One of the more creative maps in StarCraft 2 history. So we're certainly... It's going to be much like Amphion, where I think many players won't veto it, but it'll end up being the last game of the series. I mean, obviously not this one, but the Zealots in the center of the map, running headlong into a division of Marines and Marauders, and the Zealot's not coming out on top of that one. Colossi on the way. Does he have any done? Not quite yet. Another Bioforce heading across, but the force fields are good! And he comes to pick up some of the reinforcements. Harstem actually backs off before any Widow Mines can connect, and before Clem can reposition. So Harstem up 10 supply, and he has 4 bases done. He's already got 75 probes. A booming economy right now. All he needs to do is not die to Clem's ridiculous micro. So significantly easier said than done, but Clem, as greedy as he's been, he has nothing in the main, just the reinforcements. No missile turret, no sensor tower, no Vikings in the way to zone this out. But instead, the main base is open for business. The armory will be taken down before it can even complete. And that means no more upgrades. He lifts up the Widow Mines. There's a couple more firing off, but also hitting some of the Terran army. Whips out some EMPs, but the force of the bio is just tearing through the front line. And Clem, dealing with the attack back at home, and the 4th base now vulnerable. Picks up several more mines, but while all this is happening, the probes are being gutted. In that top left base, 23 probes dead. Harstem just took a little too long to deal with the force on the field. He maybe committed a little too much at the back of the base. And now, well, the army supplies, as we bring those charts up, Clem has opened up quite a wide supply gap. Emotional support fields. Manages to catch maybe 1 Marauder. The rest of the units, no blink, as the rare game without a blink opener. Harstem trying some new Phoenix-based things. Colossi, though, on the way. Some Vikings for Clem, who's managed to establish his 3rd. But all of Harstem's economic lead was just chopped off by that bio army. I think he just underestimated the strength of a bunch of dudes with drugs and guns and underground burrowed missile platforms. It happens to the best of us. And also me. 1 Widow Mine going to be taken down. Blink is on the way. But even if those ghosts are 3 supply, it doesn't matter too much at this stage of the game. Neither player even that close to maxing out. 4 Colossi incinerating a mine. There's not enough Vikings. There are just not enough Vikings to deal with this right now. 4 Vikings. There are still Phoenixes. The Phoenixes have been patrolling, trying to make sure Clem doesn't at least have an opportunity to drop the main. Another Warp Prism. Another Warp... Yes, the first one did die. Clem trying to mine from the front side. Harstem missing the army up to the north. And now we're going into something of a base trade scenario. But they say never base trade at Terran, as your next side can't really fly. But Harstem's committed to going forward, as if he goes back, it's already too late to save most of his bases. He's going to try to just win the game outright. The Bio Army, if Harstem recalls back at the right time, the question is how fast can he do damage compared to Clem? The DPS on the Terran army is ridiculous, but he's going to kill one of the orbitals and might be able to get up onto the production. He's going to have to make a very hard decision on when he decides to recall. But there's no energy on the natural. A disruptor's about to pop out. But that disruptor doesn't do enough damage to kill marauders. Fires a shot. Clem point blank pops the disruptor. It's gone. Meanwhile, Blink Stalkers. No, not even Blink Stalkers. He's chrono boosting. Clem doesn't notice the pylon. Blink may finish with half a second. No! Oh, no! 1 second. It's denied. And while Blink might not be the most... You know, actually, it may be the most important upgrade. Without Blink Stalkers, he can't chase the buildings down to this area of the map. He still has some Phoenixes. We're going into straight-up elimination. 2-2 still on the way. Clem, there's only... You need to recall now or never. I think he wants him to recall. That's why he's not EMPing the Nexus. Harstem denies both upgrades. +2/+2 is not happening. Neither. Harstem's at 88 over 16 supply. He's trying to... He evacuates 8 probes with his warp prism. A Phoenix. Meanwhile, barracks are floating across the map, trying to land. And without Blink, Harstem has no easy way to get down there. He's evacuating his probes towards that base in the top... Well, down the center. And I think Clem might just spot it. Harstem has enough money to build... Oh, he's on the run. But the medevacs are so much faster. Oh, wait. This is very awkward. Clem did not expect there to be a base. Harstem's at 86 over 8 supply. Clem is at 95. He's rebuilt a bunch of supply depots in the corner. Harstem is about to be revealed. Well, this is going to get awkward. He's in the midst of the fight. Has not rebuilt his base. No! No! The fact that he gave that info away is so huge. Harstem's army, though, is still comparable. He has a slight upgrade advantage. Oh, if he had just 1 second. 1! That is not high. It was exactly 1 second on the countdown. And now there's a planetary in the back right corner. Clem has 28 SCVs still, which means his army supply isn't as amazing as he might hope. EMP knocks out an observer. There's still 3 Colossi. There's not a single Viking on the ground. But that planetary fortress, while it might have slightly less armor, 3-2 with the new patch, the Colossi are trying to work their way around. He's shooting some of his own units. Oh, he shot his own depot to give space for a barracks. Clem is cornered right now, but Harstem... He's really going to struggle to rebuild. There's a very limited time. There's a few zealots in the main. If he had taken out some more of these depots, maybe? Clem is doing... Oh my. This is Clem's Dunkirk, which is, you know, just Dunkirk, I guess. But he sent out 2 medevacs to evacuate the units he built in the southern portion of the map. Meanwhile, the EMPs, he juggles a Colossus back and incinerating the Terran army. But this drop here, he picks them all up. Harstem is not going to expect it until the medevacs fly over the base. The zealots are working on the depots. Harstem's going to be forced to back off. The planetary's burning under so much concentrated fire from the extended thermal lances. Oh my god, if he had Blink. Oh, Harstem was so close. But now Clem... Harstem, this is not where you're supposed to be. He base traded the Terran. And now... I think if he had Blink, we could be looking at a very different game right now. So close, yet infinitely far. He rebuilt... Wait, what? Did he cancel Blink and restart it? Oh no. I think he never expected the Twilight to live, so he's just like, I'll get the money back. But now he's restarted it, and this is some very important time that he doesn't have. It's 1 base again. It's 1 base again. And juggling the Colossi. Is there a starport? No. So Harstem still has a shot here. But there's still a lot of medevacs. Blink is 10 seconds out. It won't be canceled this time. Oh, I think he figured it out. That planetary. The Marauders. So Colossi have 50 more HP and 50 less shields, which is a buff, I think, in most scenarios. Oh no, infantry weapons level 2 completed. The armory didn't die. And that means this bio-army. Oh, where are you gonna go? There's nowhere to run. The Nexus! No! He could cancel +3 weapons, I guess, if it comes to that, but the bio-army. But the last Nexus! Oh my god, the War Prism almost died. The Clem is just too slippery. And again, Harstem is gonna be revealed. The EMPs, the Marauders on their own are gonna be good enough. Oh. What a game. Harstem. Just a little bit too slow. I think Harstem strategically had the right idea. But Clem is just too fast and arguably too furious. He slipped out from underneath the army. Literally 1 second on blink, and that game looks completely different. Of course, there was quite a scenario leading up to that 1 second, but it did come down to it. What a heartbreaking scenario. I think if Harstem looks back at that game, that's, he had the army. But it is Clem, so, very hard to feel like you're even or even ahead against the world champ. Wow, this is disrespectful. So, there's been some changes. This particular build, if this is the... Yeah, that's 2 Rax Proxy Marauder. So, this was the build we've had multiple patch notes about. So, the Stalker now builds 3 seconds faster out of the gateway, not the warp gate. Okay, despite what many Terrans mostly assume. But in this exact scenario, in order to deal with, yep, the 2... Clem. Uh-huh. The creme de la Clem. Okay, so no more 2 Rex Marauder, just a solo Rex. He cancels the second one upon being scouted. Will he even get concussive? I think you just get concussive. No? Well, Harstem certainly knows Clem. He's scouted directly. Well, I think also looking for any Reaper proxies, because there's a... He did not Reaper wall. So, kind of a relevant part. 2 shield batteries. Harstem taking this very, very seriously. But Clem is already undercommitted. Another Marauder on the way. Just gonna pop the probe. Stalker on the way down. Clem trying to sell it here. Is Harstem buying is the question. Will he finish both shield batteries? I don't think you can take the risk. Like, even if it is just 1 build. So, Clem using the information that Harstem gathered against him. A 3rd shield battery. Oh, he's... Without the overcharge especially, there's nothing that energy recharge can do to protect you against this. Besides maybe dropping it on a shield battery, but that doesn't get you nearly as much as the former overcharge did. Alright, Stargate is the choice yet again. No warp gate yet. Void Ray first. Harstem using all that gas. Oh, he's taking it. Clem bamboozled him. He canceled the second gate, and I mean the second Rax. Masterfully done. The simplest play, but the most effective. And now Harstem has built 3 shield batteries. He's stuck a pylon in his mineral line. He's building a Void Ray. And a Void Ray is not what you want against anything but like a proxy Marauder. Harstem, though, does have his expansion quicker. It's not free to build your barracks across the map. He committed 2 SCVs across early. His command center's delayed. And now realizing, well, a second Void Ray is on the way. Harstem, he cancels the Void Ray in favor of an Oracle. Smart move there. As the Void Rays were pretty explicitly for dealing with the Marauders. But here comes the Mine Drop. If he just drops it there, he drops out. Can he kill one? The sacrifice is offered. Gets 2 with it. Hallucinated probes. Trying to sell it. Clem retargeting. He narrows down the offering to just 1. Retargeting on hallucinations. Trying to wait until the probes come back into range so we can go for the mineral line, but Harstem diffuses that about as well as you ever could. And now what? Building Phoenixes, got a Robo on the way. Robotics Bay in production. Harstem going straight for the mech toss. And the Oracle actually comes in. We'll get a couple SCV kills, slaps a Revelation, tags the medevac as well. So Oracle going to be quite helpful. Maintains a slight worker lead. And now the 3 Rex. Here we go again. The triple threat. Wait. The triple threat. Sorry, one more sec. Wake up. Clem not getting +1. Meanwhile, the Oracle comes in. Oh no, ran out of energy and got repaired. So no +1, but 3 medevacs on the way out. Clem's medevacs taking center stage this entire series. I mean, they're usually up there, but pretty much single-handedly saving the previous game. And a hallucinated Colossus. Fake it till you make it in every sense right now from Harstem. There could be a Colossus out here. He's selling it well. If he rushes... Now, the Colossus will be done in 20 seconds or so. But if there's no Colossus with this, I think Clem just goes. He just hits the stims and tries to grind his way through. So Harstem, with a smart play there. And now a real Colossus will replace the stand-in at almost exactly the time it times out. Your watch is ended. Beautifully done. Really needs to take down that tech lab. It keeps scouting for Clem. Finally working on it with the Void Ray. Could you kill the tech lab? Yeah, Clem has vision of these units because of said tech lab. So be very careful. It will burn unless he drops a mule to repair it, which would be amazing and completely not worth it. Scouting for any hidden bases, because Harstem has been quite late on expanding to his 3rd. Clem has his own 3rd command center as well, but he's very focused on having the right unit composition here. Vikings already in production. How many total? Just 3 medevacs, and then immediately into Vikings, as Clem trying to take this head on. And I mean, by that I mean shooting the head that's in the air with the Vikings before Harstem can have enough on the ground to deal with it. Hallucinated Phoenix eats a Widowmine. Pretty clear that Clem has taken his 3rd. Templar Archives on the way. 4 more gates as well. We're at that kind of mid-game standoff where both players, their armies are too strong defensively and not strong enough on attack. But I think Clem, he has no armory. He has 3 ghosts on the way, and he's got a bunch of Vikings. Is he gonna pull the boys? This is such an old school, just all-out 1-1 timing. With 3 medevacs here. Yep, we got some... Oh no, the Oracle just gets taken out. Will he notice? Just a few units out ahead. 3 ghosts on the way. And this is an incredibly dangerous time. And Clem has put everything into this. He has no follow-up besides more of the same, while Harstem's still working on his upgrades. God, that's a lot of Vikings. 9 Vikings right now. Void Ray almost dead before it can even get a hit off. Colossi stripped of shields. EMPs wash across. No Guardian shield. The Vikings kiting back. And 1 Colossus tumbles down. 2 left. Harstem may have to just give up this base. And past that, it's not looking incredibly great as well. There's just not enough units out here. The Vikings finding an angle. Harstem. Force fields are good. The Archon's helping out a lot. He's just going to go for it. The Bio Army coming in. More charge lots, but the force fields are kind of working against Harstem. And he's just grinding right through it. Clem tearing it apart. He focuses everything on those mech units. And with a few EMPs, he's able to grind his way through everything else. Clem with a decisive 2-0. A heartbreaking first match and a pretty clear-cut second one. Give Clem a 2-0 victory and lead us into our bonus series against Mana. Another European Protoss known for his creativity. I thought we'd get a full look at how Clem is treating the quote-unquote new Terran versus Protoss, especially against people who, now this is rare, are not max packs. Let's see what the best of the rest of the Protoss are up to. But a best of 3 from, by the way, this is from Wardy's Public Test Realm Tournament. Thank you to Wardy, as always, putting on these amazing tournaments and sending out the games. Make sure to check them out if you have an opportunity. If you're not a vampire like me, you should be able to catch some of these tournaments live on Wardy's channel, especially on Twitch. You can find link in the description. Unless Jimmy forgot. Maybe like and subscribe so I can find some real help. Maybe mentally. But, I mean, just to push back a little to the inevitable. Clem's supposed to beat Harstem. I'm sorry to the captain. But Clem is the world champion in Harstem. Maybe next year. But it would actually, even taking a game, would be quite an upset. Even though Harstem's like the 30th ranked player in the world. Clem is second. And he beat number 1. It's just how we do the rankings. So, yes, Cyril, by the way. And to answer the question, to those of you who probably haven't watched this far in before they ask it in the comments, the reason you don't see Cyril or Maru lately, they're not dead, I hope. And they haven't quit the game. It's just neither Cyril nor Maru play in pretty much anything but big dollar premier tournaments. You'll get the occasional show match, maybe some streams, but both of them, for their own reasons, which we can speculate about, rarely play in anything but premier tournaments. So, and, well, Maru historically has pretty much only showed up for that, whereas Cyril, I think, is more focused, like, it's priority. He doesn't want to give away any of his strategies, any of his info, especially now that he's back full-time. So, but I'm waiting. Don't worry. As soon as we have any games, even remotely hinting about Cyril, I can guarantee you will see them. But make sure to subscribe just to make sure. Well, now we've got a shift. Mana opting for Blink instead of the Stargate place. I really think the Stargate has a place, but while EMP is still so incredibly effective against both shields and energy, the problem with Protoss and balancing Protoss is not just the warp gate mechanic, but how spiky it is. I've seen that terminology. I'll use it. Where Either you have the right thing or you don't. And it's very, very clear-cut. Like, for example, Blink or not in Game 1. Colossus or not. Whereas Terran is a lot more fluid. There's a lot smaller groups of units that you can make very valuable. But at the same time, if you don't take advantage of every bit of that value, if you're not Clem, you get run over. Somewhat literally by charge slots, by Colossi, by Storm. You get undercut by Dark Templar. Blink Stalkers are in your main. And Protoss has such strong options that come with just as, if not more strong, expense. And that is the delicate balance that seems to be the struggle. Because Protoss does, when they are overrepresented in Grandmaster. They show there are more Protoss who participate in many of these tournaments, especially weekly and lower tier tournaments, than Zerg and Terran combined, usually. But that brings us back to the chicken and the imbalanced egg situation. Is it the player who chooses the race that is better, or does the race make the player better? And that is a question that will never be answered decisively. And I will hedge my bets and say, a bit of both. But in order to give an actual answer, I'll say, I think that the highest level players gravitate more towards Zerg and to an extent Terran because the mechanical skill cap is simply insanely high. The skill cap for Protoss is also very high, but kind of in like a juggling flaming swords while doing your taxes sort of way, rather than running really fast or bench pressing very hard or large, whatever. Because the mechanics for Terran and Zerg are, while difficult, pretty clear cut. Like, this is the best way to get your production. This is the best way. This is how you go through your injects and your creep spread and your overlords. Whereas Protoss is all over the place. Is that a single Templar with 2 storms? Well, it had 2 storms. It's a lot more about exactly what and when you do things than how much with Protoss. Like, for example, if you energy recharge a Templar after rushing to Storm and then lose it to a single siege tank without killing any SCVs, that could be considered not good. I'm just, you know, hypothetically. And that, the most obvious thing that people are thinking of with energy recharge is Storm, obviously. You've got the most powerful spell, arguably, in the game, of actually killing things. Problem is, Templar are ruinously expensive and remarkably fragile. So if they can't be in a loving relationship with another Templar and become an Archon, they just kind of die. Well, the Storm's softening things up, trying to juggle back the Templar, but it may cost him. The Storm's warding away, but look at the supply. I think Clem is just going for attrition here, where some of you may die, but that's a risk that Clem is willing to take. The Templar spread throughout all of the bases here. He's entirely reliant on those Templar finding the storms. +1's on the way. We got the Robo Bay for another flavor of splash damage. But the Vikings, I think, they didn't get any changes, but I think Clem leaning more heavily into the Vikings in general. Vikings are not bad in any way. Like, Vikings, they can counter, obviously, Stargate units, but on the ground, they aren't a bad choice either. Bonus damage against mechanical. Not entirely sure why, but they drop down, and they're still a good counter to Immortals and Stalkers as well. So I think adding in even more of those Vikings is not going to be a bad idea in general for Terran. Oh, Vikings historically, and of course in StarCraft too, quite well countered by Storm. That is something to watch out for. Clem is just... He's stressing Mana out so much. Mana is clearly anticipating an attack. And Clem is just not going. He's just pre-spread. It's like, if you're going Storm, well, I'm not going anywhere. Okay? Until I get Ghosts, until I get Vikings, until pretty much I'm maxed out. So, so far, barely any losses. We're almost 10 minutes. Nearly no rush, besides the ill-fated Storm drop. And a little bit of Raven harass. But, very clearly, Clem is looking for the closest thing to a Terran death ball. Yes, we will not see him send all the units out at once. There will always be a few sacrificial Marines or Marauders out ahead. Otherwise, he runs the risk of actually eating the storms. Templar and the Prism extended thermal lance is about to complete. Mana has had just enough time to build up both forms of splash damage, but he hasn't had enough time to fill in all that supply. So, +2 ground weapons about to complete. That will give Mana an arguable upgrade advantage as he tries for a 5th base. 3 Ghosts, a very similar sort of timing. Feedback could be very helpful here. Another Storm softens up. That base ain't gonna happen. The siege tank's in position. Probes pulled away. Vikings looking for an opportunity over the top. +1 ship weapons, not quite done yet, but Clem is just maxed out. Okay? Oh my god. Look at that supply. He's maxed out with all the units you need in order to deal with this. Yes, the Ghosts take up a little more supply, so actually that helps maxing out quicker and looking good. But EMPs wash over the front line. The 5th base he can give up. The 4th base he really does not want to. The Vikings hit by the storms. Another... Oh, that Colossus, he needs to juggle, but the War Prism is so dicey as well. The storms are just not cutting it. The Vikings blinks over to the side to box out. Another Templar dies, and the Stalker is being pummeled by the siege tanks. Mana is trying to hold on to this position, but at some point, there we go, there's a big storm. Another storm around the corner. Clem backs off with most of this. EMPs wash over the Archons. The positioning, the Colossi are split by the ramp as Clem kites back, but Mana holds. But at what cost? Clem thankfully doesn't retarget onto the Colossi. He's just gonna go forward. There are 4 Colossi stomping or tiptoeing their way across the map. There's 1 Templar with energy. If the Ghosts die, God, they're so tanky. Another Viking down. Some more Marines caught out. That's a lot of Marauders. And the EMPs land. 3 Immortals caught out in front, but the Concave is incredible. He arcs out around. 2-2 upgrades done. The Colossi tanking a surprising amount of damage. They definitely feel tankier, but definitely not tanky enough. They're brought down by the Marauders, the Vikings, and the Medevacs in tow. And Mana just crumbling. An interesting choice. The Storm looking good, but that first Templar needed to do a lot more, I think. Like, it just gave Clem so much time to prepare an exact response. He lost so much momentum when he revealed the Storm drop. And Mana, he's not dead. Juggles the Colossus back with the Prism. The Prism itself knocked out. More Templar on the way. The charge lots are holding, but EMP hits the Archons. Another Archon, or hits the Templar and forces him into Archons. Takes out another Medevac. But Clem, it ain't getting any easier. Colossus knocked out. And Clem just holding it together. Those Colossi, though, I think definitely feel a lot stronger. This is the change that I really thought was a troll move, but instead has turned out to be a pretty reasonable one, which is Colossi now having 50 more HP and 50 less shields. You know, I'd argue maybe just having 50 more HP. But again, we're trying to kind of make it so Protoss don't beat everyone who isn't Clem. And again, I don't want to hear it. Well, I do want to hear it. The thoughts and feelings. But consider that Mana is ranked in the 30th player in the world. Clem is, I'd call him tied for first. Cyril's still technically ranked first, but with Clem, what Clem did to Cyril at the World Cup, I'm going to put him tied. Just emotionally. So. But I'm not a big fan of the early Storm Rush. But I think if the Immortal... So the Immortal was nerfed in its attack speed, but also buffed in how many minerals it costs. Don't nerf it. Alright? We said we did it for the Zergs. Okay. If we're doing it for Zerg, how about the Immortal, instead of... If you really want to nerf the Immortal... This won't happen, by the way. So the Immortal does 20 damage baseline. That's it. 20 damage. Marine has 45 HP, 55 with combat shield. Zergling has 35. Just for reference. So, it does plus 30 versus armored. That's why it's so great against Marauders, against Lurkers, and it's kind of terrible. It takes 3 hits to kill Marine. The change I'd like to see, sure, keep the attack speed reduction, but change the immortal damage to 25-25. That means it'll two-shot Marines after they stim. It'll do more damage in general against things like Hydras, but not be any better against Lurkers or Marauders. Okay? So the Immortal just a slightly better all-around ground damage unit. If the Colossus is going to be inherently unreliable, the Storms and Disruptors have always been, well, I would like to see if there was a unit that can't be warped in with 12 of them to the back of your opponent's base that we can tweak a bit. It's the Immortal. So it would still kill Zerglings and Banelings in the same number of hits. It would be a little bit of a buff against Ravagers. Honestly, Zerg in this new patch, in my opinion, struggling a bit against Protoss, but in the late game, they've always struggled against Protoss. Pretty much everyone who isn't Dark or Sarah. As fighting carriers and Storm and all that. Whereas, I don't want the mothership. The mothership the mothership should not be abducted. Okay? Let us just assume we're not reverting that. I certainly hope we're not reverting that. I really thought the patch would go live with the new season, which was, in case you weren't keeping track. I know you're all on top of the ladder. Okay? Trying to grind your way back up to Whispers of Gold. But, for those who don't know, the new season started as of, we're watching this, like 2 days ago. No new maps, and the new patch is not there yet. So I assume at some point, probably about 4 a.m. on a Thursday morning, the intern will remember that StarCraft 2 exists and upload the patch and hopefully not break anything more. That is probably when it's going to happen. Sometime between the next 1 and 7 weeks. So, jot that down. What I'm trying to say, though, is I doubt there will be significant changes. The second iteration of the balance patch, this one we're watching right now, does feel a lot more, well, coherent. I still have some details I'd like, but it does feel like this is the one we're getting. And another one just... Okay, Phoenix is here. The Reaper just gets in. We're going to ignore this. The change that really... It grinds my gears without being imbalanced is the changes to the Zerg economy. Queens being 175 minerals, and hatcheries being 275. 15 years of muscle memory, almost, of Queens being 150 minerals, and hatcheries being 300. My comparison is, it feels like a shoe that's a little bit too small, is how it is. Like, every time I think I have enough for a queen or a hatchery, it's either I have a little too much or too little. It balances out, yeah, but it feels really weird. So we'll see how that shakes out. I don't think it's necessarily a big nerf to Zerg, maybe against Terran in the early game, but it's an odd one, for sure. Now, the Oracle came in and just died. Clem just kind of sitting back and chilling. We got some Phoenixes this time around. Mana taking a page out of Harstem's book. And to be honest, I don't know which of these series was played first, but I believe they were played on the same day. So that may have informed any of the players in these matchups, just in case you're wondering. But now Robo Bay immediately, 2 base Robo Bay. So clearly intending on getting those Colossi out as soon as possible. I want EMP, like, EMP with a much slower projectile, like fungal. Did you know EMP is a projectile? Most people don't. Or, and I wouldn't blame you, because it's so ridiculously fast, it's effectively impossible to dodge, unless you're just kind of guessing. And not like that'll change the idea that you can just whip out 17 EMPs and wipe out everything, but I wouldn't mind shield upgrades, maybe reducing the effectiveness. Guardian Shield. Maybe Guardian Shield blocks an EMP. Alright, and then it pops the Guardian, it disables. So instead of Guardian Shield being something that helps you, and then you try to pop it before EMP, so that way you don't get your Sentry energy wiped out, how about it just eats 1 EMP? Energy for energy. Okay. Maybe it reduces it. I don't know. Maybe 50% and it pops the Guardian Shield. I don't know. But it really, the EMP still feels kind of all or nothing. Unlike Phoenixes, which are now just grinding their way through. Yes, there is a game going on. The Phoenixes kill 6 SCVs, but Clem doesn't seem to care. He's sending 2 medevacs for the main, which is wide open. And the third base is going to be receiving the rest of the interest here. Stim is done. God, the probes are being slaughtered. There's a Colossus, a Sentry, and a Zealot. And 2 Gs. Clem just walks up and kills him. I don't know exactly what went wrong, but certainly not much went right. Did I miss like a huge attack failing, or did he just die? Nope, he lost an Oracle. So, it was just Phoenix into Colossus. And Clem's like, here's a bunch of units, and punches him in the face. You know, in the old wise words of one Day J. When he's doing something weird, just go fucking kill him. And, well, Clem, a revolutionary idea. Well, he just killed him. There's just not enough... just not enough there. 2 gates, a Robo, and a Stargate with this wide open of a main? No. It's just too much. Clem, he went by the Observer and then split 2 medevacs off afterwards. Just tearing him apart. Wow, a decisive, overwhelming victory for the Frenchman. Showing a clear... Okay, all right, Jimmy. Yes. A clear command of the matchup. I think Harstem really had a shot, as well as the Phoenix and the Colossus being a strong option, but Clem is still Clem. All right. It would be an upset. Even if you had Clem at like 70% unit HP, I think he'd still be a favorite here. So, make no mistake, the expected result. But I thought still some interesting gameplay, and I know... well, I'm trying to get all the matchups out there. So, if you see a mirror matchup in the coming days, you made it this far. So, if you're at the end of the video listening to this monologue, or at least you didn't turn the video off, you're asleep, right? Wake up. And if you see a mirror matchup, know it's a great game. Even if it's not the matchup you want to see, like Terran versus Zerg for most people, I'd love to be able to show mirror matchups and not have them get 50% less views. Okay, it's not 50. It's like 30 to 50. It depends. It really depends. But no matter how hard we could. Either way, we're going to try. But thank you for watching. I hope I made your day a little bit better. Thank you to Wardy for putting on all these tournaments as always. Make sure to check them out. Let them know you like it. And otherwise, I hope I made your day a little bit better. If you got the means of motivation, Patreon is actually incredibly helpful and really awesome to have. Wow, this is a long monologue. Okay, we're done with it. I'll do another balance route when the patch goes live or we get an update. I've got some games of me playing on the second channel, Winter Gaming TV, as well. And I hope I made your day a little bit better. Good luck. Have fun. I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Stay chill. Jimmy, cut it. We're going to edit that.